The 1970s in Australia felt freer, rougher and far less regulated than today. It was a decade of backyard cricket, long summers, cigarette smoke in public places and rules that were often more suggestion than enforcement. The air smelled different, tasted different. Lead from petrol hung in the breeze. Asbestos dust settled on windowsills. Nobody thought twice about it. Many things people barely questioned back then would now lead to fines. What seemed like common sense then looks like absolute madness now. Here are 20 activities and everyday habits that were once common across Australia but would be banned or heavily restricted today. Riding in the back of a ute. Children sitting in the open tray of a ute was a familiar sight. No seatbelts, no restraints, just kids holding on to the sides while the vehicle moved down country roads. Parents thought nothing of it. It was just how you got the kids to the footy or down to the beach. Not anymore, mate. No bike helmets. In the 1970s, no one wore bike helmets. Kids rode BMXs, dragsters and push bikes everywhere without protective gear, racing down hills, jumping curbs, performing stunts. Scraped knees were common. Head injuries were just bad luck. Riding without one today results in fines, and the coppers are strict about it across all states and territories. Smoking inside cinemas and restaurants. Cigarette smoke once filled restaurants, cinemas, shopping centres, and even hospitals without complaint. Ashtrays were built into armrests. Children sat in smoke-filled rooms as adults chain smoked through meals and films. Today, indoor public smoking is banned nationwide, with strict penalties for businesses and individuals who break the law. Cigarette advertising on television. Tobacco ads were common on Australian television and radio, often airing during prime time and the footy. Sporting events were sponsored by cigarette brands, with logos plastered across scoreboards and uniforms. Gradually, mounting health evidence and public pressure led to advertising bans throughout the 1980s. Today, tobacco advertising is heavily restricted under federal law. Buying cigarettes for your parents. Children could walk into the corner shop and purchase durries for their parents without question. Shopkeepers handed over packs to kids as young as 8 or 9. Age verification was minimal or non-existent. Today, supplying tobacco to minors is illegal with significant penalties for retailers. No more ducking down to the milk bar for mum's smokes. No child car seats. Babies and toddlers often travelled on a parent's lap in the front seat or unrestrained in the back, rolling around freely during trips. Dedicated child restraints were rare, expensive, and seen as unnecessary. If a car stopped suddenly, children became projectiles. Modern Australian road rules mandate approved child safety seats based on age and weight, and non-compliance results in heavy fines and demerit points. No more chucking the kids in the back and hoping for the best. Loose seatbelt enforcement. Although seatbelts began appearing in cars in the late 60s and early 70s, enforcement was inconsistent and penalties were light. Rear seatbelts were often absent entirely. Many drivers saw them as optional, uncomfortable, or even dangerous in a crash. Compliance was poor until public campaigns and stricter laws took hold. Today, wearing a seatbelt is compulsory for all occupants in every seat. Click it or cop a fine, mate. Drink driving with higher blood alcohol. Drinking and driving was more socially accepted in the 70s. Blokes left the pub after several schooners and drove home without shame or fear. Legal blood alcohol limits were higher and enforcement was inconsistent. Random breath testing was introduced in New South Wales in 1982 and expanded nationally. Today, strict limits and heavy penalties apply. The booze bust changed everything. No pool fencing requirements. Backyard swimming pools rarely had safety fencing in the 1970s. Children could wander into unfenced yards, unsupervised, and toddlers drowned with tragic regularity. Drowning was one of the leading causes of death for young children. These incidents led to mandatory pool fencing laws across Australia. Today, failing to comply can result in substantial fines. No more just chucking a pool in the backyard without proper fencing. Letting kids roam all day, children routinely left home in the morning with no plan and returned at sunset without supervision. Parents had no idea where they were. It was freedom, independence, and completely normal. While not illegal in itself, modern child safety laws and expectations around neglect are far stricter. Authorities now intervene where supervision is deemed inadequate. The days of be home before dark are long gone. Fireworks for private use. In several states, fireworks were once sold over the counter for personal celebrations. Backyard displays were common around New Year's Eve and other holidays. Injuries were frequent, burns common, and fires not unusual. Today, fireworks are restricted to licensed operators in most Australian states. No more backyard fireworks shows, mate. Leaded petrol at every service station. Leaded fuel was standard across Australia. Vehicles release toxic lead particles into the air. Children playing near roads absorb lead through their lungs and skin. Phased out during the 1980s and 1990s, leaded petrol is now banned due to its proven health risks. No more filling up with the leaded stuff at the servo. Lead-based household. Homes built before the late 1970s often used lead-based paint on walls, windows, and furniture. It was valued for durability, vibrant colour, and long-lasting finish. Children chewed on painted windowsills, and dust from deteriorating paint settled on floors where bubs crawled. Research into lead poisoning led to strict regulation and bans in residential use. Can't just slap any old paint on the walls anymore. Asbestos in building materials. Asbestos was widely used in roofing, fencing, insulation, and even kitchen products. It was considered practical, affordable, and fire-resistant. Tradesmen cut and installed it without masks or protective equipment. Fibres floated through the air, invisible and deadly. Australia banned asbestos completely in 2003 after decades of evidence linking it to fatal illnesses. No more DIY asbestos removal. That's for sure. No seatbelts on school buses. Many school buses operated without seatbelts, and students moved freely, stood in aisles, and changed seats while the vehicle was in motion. Accidents were often catastrophic. Today, strict transport safety regulations govern school bus design and operation. No more mucking about on the school bus without being strapped in. Selling raw milk directly to consumers. Unpasteurised milk was sometimes sold directly from farms to households, delivered in glass bottles or collected in jugs. It was fresher, richer, and completely unregulated. Concerns about foodborne illness led to strict food safety laws. Raw milk sales are now tightly regulated and restricted in most states. Can't just rock up to the farm and grab a bottle of raw milk anymore. Minimal workplace safety regulations. Factories, farms, and construction sites operated with fewer protective standards. Hard hats, harnesses, and safety training were inconsistent or absent. Injury and death rates were far higher. Modern work health and safety laws enforce strict compliance nationwide. No more shall be right attitude on the worksite. Hitchhiking as normal transport. Standing by the roadside with the thumb out was common, especially for young people travelling between cities or heading to the beach. Hitchhiking was socially accepted and widely practiced. Drivers picked up strangers without fear. Today, in many areas, it is discouraged or restricted due to safety concerns. No more thumbing a lift down the highway. Candy, cigarettes. Confectionery shaped like cigarettes was widely sold to children in milk bars and corner shops. They mimicked adult smoking behaviour, puffing on sugar sticks wrapped in paper designed to look like real cigarette packs. Growing awareness about tobacco's harm and the normalisation of smoking to children led to packaging changes and bans in many regions. No more pretending to smoke lollies at the milk bar. Smoking areas in high schools. Some Australian high schools permitted designated smoking areas for older students and even staff. Today, all schools are strictly smoke-free under state and federal legislation. No more sneaking a durry behind the demountables. The 1970s were not careless by intention. Many of these practices reflected limited research, different social norms, and less regulation. What once seemed ordinary became unacceptable as understanding grew. Looking back, the 70s feel freer in memory, but they were also riskier, often in ways people didn't yet understand. Time, research, and experience transformed everyday life, turning what was once normal into something no longer allowed.